Hello, dear friends. Defenders of truth must look beyond the prefabricated official narrative. Opinion piece. Malicious War. Clash of interests. Multipolar world. Financial conspiracy. Against the golden timeline. Global economic uncertainty. The coalition does not support this war. Let's start. Wars are malicious because they cause the death of innocent human beings. According to Cobra, the current conflict has been instigated by dark forces in order to interfere with the golden timeline. He also maintains that the struggle for control of time has intensified. Therefore, the forces of light and sensible people don't support this conflict or any other, and for that reason, I have always declared myself a pacifist. It is only a matter of time before evil is eradicated and the planet is finally liberated. The wealth extraction model underlying every targeted war follows a predictable pattern. Destruction is generated. Money is lent for reconstruction through the same interest rates that destroyed the infrastructure, and then perpetual profit is extracted through debt servicing. The current geopolitical situation reflects the panic felt by the old system as it nears its self-destruction. According to Hall Turner, the ultimate goal is the fulfillment of Armageddon prophecies. Troops were told that the war against Iran was God's plan linked to Armageddon. The Religious Freedom Foundation received over 110 complaints describing the war as Bible-approved and a sign of the end times. They described the bombing of a sovereign nation of 90 million people as a biblical event. Morality. According to Andrew Napolitano, an act of a person or government is moral when it conforms to a universal set of principles designed to promote good over evil and justice over injustice. These principles are accessible to all adults with reasoning capacity. In his view, the individual is morally superior to the state because all human beings possess natural rights, conscience, and free will. Of course, we are free to obey our conscience or to violate it, free to respect the natural rights of others or to transgress them. When we transgress the natural right of others, our conduct is immoral. When laws protect natural rights, they are valid and moral, but those same laws are immoral when they violate natural rights, such as freedom of speech freedom, confiscate property, restrict freedom or movement, or invade personal privacy. According to Daily Theology, President Trump was subjected to trauma-based mind programming during his time at Fordham University, controlled by the Jesuits in 1966. In his view, this programming has created a split in his personality, with a positive part that tries to do good and another one that is controlled by his manipulators. Financial control. According to Cobra, it's all about money or financial control, and about trying to prevent the consolidation of an alternative to the old system. Alternative monetary systems have been developed, and progress has been made toward the implementation of the gold standard, which represents a threat to the system. Iran is not simply a geopolitical battleground, but a prime zone of spiritual activation. The 2022 Women's Uprising was not merely a civil protest. It represented an awakening of feminine energy, linked to the reactivation of the positive timeline of the Kashar goddess. The Kashar dynasty reactivated the mysteries of the goddess at the Persian court in the early 19th century, and this energetic thread is now being picked up again. The first victory of the renewed goddess energy manifested with the formal dissolution of morality police. This is understood as a decisive advance that reaffirms the feminine principle in the face of millennia of repression. Ancient Persian lineages harness this goddess energy, in contrast to the lineages of the Roman Empire, that continue to exploit the energetic traces of the Roman-Persian War to fuel modern conflicts. Objectives. According to Cobra, the ultimate goal of this conflict would be a strategic defeat of China, which could backfire. It seems that Iran is quietly receiving a great deal of foreign aid. China is mass-producing drones, and it is feared that hundreds of Chinese military personnel and technicians have been killed as they were hiding in underground bunkers destroyed by airstrikes. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal reports that Russia has shared technology with Iran and provided intelligence to locate targets in its drone and missile attacks. According to Martin Armstrong, the cycle indicates that this war cannot be won. In his view, sending troops could be a suicide mission. He adds that it cannot be claimed that we have already won by destroying their navy and bombing their surface operations, because there are dozens of deep underground facilities that no missile can reach. He believes that Iran has been underestimated and that intelligence advice has been ignored. Recognizing that oil is losing its status as the primary anchor, Iran is leveraging its dominance in artificial intelligence to maintain demand for foreign currency. According to Ehsan Legari, the foundations of the global financial order have fractured, and this could be the prelude to a systemic collapse. What began as a strategy to neutralize regional threats has become the catalyst for a multipolar world, where power is distributed among multiple centers. Consequences. This conflict has caused extreme volatility in the price of gold, leading to large investors to liquidate their precious metal reserves to obtain much-needed cash. This price drop will eventually be followed by an even more dramatic rise in gold prices. Turkey dumped 58 tons of gold after the start of the war with Iran, causing the price to plummet. The Gulf states are liquidating their gold and silver holdings because the closure of the Strait of Hormuz cut off their oil revenues. They need immediate liquidity to finance the war and defend their currencies. The money didn't disappear. It will most likely return to the dollar for sheer survival. When sovereign wealth funds start unloading gold and silver to survive, it has a massive and immediate impact on market prices. Disclosure. On a more positive note, the pressure to release cosmic information continues, and things could get even more interesting. The momentum to unearth hidden UFO files that have remained buried for decades is growing. This could be very interesting because the UFO releases could include videos and photos of non-human craft that prove we are not alone. The most compelling evidence is satellite photographs of non-human made craft in space above Earth. That's why dark forces are trying to eliminate key individuals who could trigger the disclosure. The general who was guarding the UFOs disappeared days after Trump's order to release all the information. Reset News. Google will migrate its encryption in the face of the quantum threat. Ariel reports that scientists researching reverse engineering and suppressed technologies have disappeared in recent months. Robert Kiyosaki says he's not sure that what will trigger the biggest bubble in history, but it's not a question of it, but when. In his opinion, gold will reach $35,000 an ounce. Middle East. More than 3,500 US troops arrived in the Middle East. The US has no immediate plans for a ground invasion. The war enters its second month, and the US predicts its end in 2 weeks. Marco Rubio predicts the military operation will end in a matter of weeks. The US and Israel attacked nuclear facilities in Iran. The US believes it has destroyed only a third of Iran's missiles. The Israeli military chief warns that his army is nearing internal collapse. Britain assumes command of the multinational force in the Strait of Hormuz as Iran rejects ceasefire proposal. Yemen's Houthis launch a cruise missile attack on southern Israel. The G7 agrees to protect the Strait of Hormuz, but only after the war ends. Is Netanyahu alive? Is the new Ayatollah Khamenei alive? Were the bases in the Middle East attacked? Is Israel suffering significant damage? Is artificial intelligence being used to manipulate the population? What will happen to NATO now that its known European countries won't help it in the current war? Questions from Rafa Pal. Economy. Oil rises 55% and the stock market falls 8% after the first month of the conflict. The Saudi pipeline diverted from the Strait of Hormuz reaches 7 million barrels. Oil at $100 is solving Russia's budget problem. 2 more months of war could push oil to $200. Central banks must prepare for inflation, warns the OECD. The armed conflict increases global economic uncertainty, according to the Federal Reserve. The Bank of England warns of severe consequences from the escalating conflict. The war exposes the dependence on the tourism sector. The collapse of insect farming demonstrates what consumers don't want. Europe. The armed conflict will affect the Eurozone. Europeans worried about war. The European Union hates Hungary and loves Ukraine. Russians increasingly believe in supernatural forces, according to a poll. Chernobyl's cleanup will cost $500 million to contain the radioactivity. Spain. The People's Party claims that Spain is experiencing a political disaster. 60% of Spaniards feel their talent is being wasted. Historic collapse in electricity prices, down 99% in 1 week. Rental supply plummets by 61% and prices soar by 40%. The IBEX 35 posts its first positive week since the start of the war. CPI accelerates to 3.3% as oil soars above $114. The new American dream is to retire in Spain, Italy, France, Costa Rica, or Panama. Gibraltar begins building its mini Marbella. Shakira sells 450,000 tickets for her residency in Spain. Americas. Mexico lacks the capacity to replace imports from China. Mexico locates the two catamarans which had been missing for 7 days en route to Cuba with aid. Argentina avoids paying $16.1 billion after its legal victory in the US. Argentina declares the Jalisco New Generation Cartel a terrorist organization. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.